They cloned her without permission. That mistake cost them planets. Is the title of the story. In this story we discuss when the Dominion clones Rose without her consent. They believe they've created the perfect weapon to crush rebellion. But the original Rose, thought long dead, returns, awakened by the psychic violation. With a mind forged in exile and a ship bound to her will, she launches a relentless campaign to dismantle the empire that tried to own her. At her side stands Nova, the clone who defies her creators and claims her own identity. Together, they ignite a war not just for freedom, but for the right to exist on their own terms. That one mistake cost the Dominion entire planets. Ask ChatGPT. A low hum pulsed through the cloning chamber, echoing between polished steel walls and rows of humming containment tubes. The air inside the Dominion bioforge hung thick with sterilized precision, sharp and cold like the minds that designed it. Behind a pane of reinforced glass, Subject Zero floated in synthetic amniotic fluid, her form still, fetal, suspended in artificial serenity. She had auburn hair drifting like silk underwater, high cheekbones, and a barely furrowed brow. Her violet eyes remained closed, but the systems showed faint cerebral flickers. She was nearly awake. Technician Vale adjusted the energy parameters, eyes narrowed at the data streaming down the interface. This one's stabilizing faster than the others, he muttered, tapping nervously. Genomic integrity at 98%. Psychic resonance is increasing. Because she's not like the others, replied Dr. Sirix, lead geneticist and Dominion Council liaison. Her voice held no pride, only cold observation. This one's pure. No mutations. No memory collapse. We got it right this time. The cloning team did not speak of what had been required to create her. The theft of biosignatures, the years it took to decode the hybrid DNA, the erasure of records tying back to the first encounter. Above all, they never spoke of the original, Rose. She had disappeared years ago after the breach at Vega Station. No body was recovered. No trace left behind. But the Dominion had scraped her cells from the wreckage, from dried blood on ruined armor, from phantom energy lingering in the void. Enough to make a weapon. Enough to replicate power they never understood. Now, she was returning in artificial form, built not for peace or autonomy, but for conquest. They had created her to lead a new wave of planetary suppression, to end resistance in the outer rings. They called her Subject Zero. But deep in the cortical simulators, she was beginning to remember something, or someone. Her eyes opened. Violet. Luminous. Ageless. An alert flashed red across the console. Cognitive awakening exceeded expected thresholds. Sirix leaned forward, her voice low. Do not engage her directly. We imprint behavior at Phase 2. But the clone had already started scanning the lab, her expression unreadable, her breath slow and steady. Where am I? Her voice echoed through the internal speakers, curious, calm, eerily similar to the real Rose. Vale froze. She shouldn't be capable of independent speech yet. She's accelerating, Sirix said. Increase neurochemical dampeners, now. The lights flickered. The chamber's temperature dropped. In a distant quadrant of space, aboard a drifting warship long thought destroyed, another set of violet eyes snapped open. Rose exhaled, a breath that trembled the air around her. The Etherian, her vessel and companion, groaned awake with her, systems illuminating after years of dormancy. Across its hull, golden sigils shimmered, carved by ancient hands that once shaped suns. She felt it, a violent ripple in the web of consciousness that tethered her soul to the universe. Someone had replicated her essence without permission. Not just copied her, but desecrated it. The Dominion had violated something sacred, and it burned through her like wildfire. I warned them, she whispered to the void, stepping forward, her cloak fluttering around sleek, battle-worn armor etched with cosmic runes. I told them what it would cost. She touched the Etherian's core terminal, and her mind synced with the ship's intelligence in an instant. A holographic projection of the Dominion bioforge surfaced before her, its coordinates flickering, now revealed. Their mistake had become her summons. The clone didn't know it yet, but they were connected, by thought, by energy, by something deeper than science dared to measure. That connection had just become a beacon. Back in the lab, Subject Zero pressed her palm against the interior of the cloning pod. The fluid inside began to boil. "Shut it down," Vale yelled. "Too late," Syrinx whispered. A voice, older, darker, sounded in Subject Zero's mind, not hostile, not maternal, but vast and sovereign. "You are not meant for this." The clone shivered, a memory not her own blooming behind her eyes. A battlefield drenched in fire. A man begging her to leave. A star collapsing. Her breath hitched. Her heartbeat quickened. Then came silence. She collapsed inside the pod, unconscious, but changed. The Dominion, for all its technological brilliance, had made one critical error: it believed it could own what it had no right to touch. Far above, in the black ocean of space, the Etherian turned toward the bioforge. Rose stepped onto the command deck, eyes blazing. "Prepare for transit. No survivors." She didn't speak of revenge. This wasn't vengeance. This was reclamation. And it would cost them planets. "You said." The void parted as the Etherian descended. Its living hull shimmered with shifting glyphs, casting spectral light across the orbit of Pharos 9, where the Dominion bioforge pulsed like a tumor against the stars. Dozens of defense satellites aligned, weapons primed, AI protocols calculating attack vectors, but before a single round could be fired, time fractured. The Etherian moved with impossible precision, slipping through reality like a knife through silk. The satellites blinked out of existence in synchronized silence, their cores snuffed as if the universe had forgotten them. Then came the ship's shadow, stretching long over the bioforge facility as though the cosmos itself had turned to watch. Rose stood at the helm, arms folded, eyes glowing faintly as her senses merged with the ship's awareness. She felt the facility's pulse, its reactors, its technicians, its secrets trembling inside. Her expression remained calm, but beneath the surface, something ancient stirred. Rage without heat. Judgment without mercy. "Ready a corridor," she said softly. The Etherian obeyed. Far below, alarms screamed inside the bioforge. Dominion security scrambled, their suits hissing as they deployed through sterile corridors. High Commander Kes Var Tol watched the descending vessel with a grimace. "She's here," he growled. Syrinx didn't respond. She was already moving to the lower labs, where Subject Zero lay sedated. The clone's vitals fluctuated wildly, heart racing, synapses flashing in erratic storms. Though unconscious, she was not still. In her dreams, the voice of Rose whispered, not as a threat, but as a mirror. When Rose stepped into the lab, the steel door peeled back like paper, metal liquefying in her presence. The Dominion guards raised their rifles. None got the chance to fire. A pressure, soundless, crushing, folded them to the floor, unconscious or dead, it didn't matter. Syrinx turned slowly, fear plain in her eyes but defiance not entirely gone. "You don't belong here," she said. "I never did," Rose replied, her gaze sweeping over the clone, who stirred within the containment pod. "And neither does she." "She's your evolution," Syrinx said quickly, the desperation in her voice masked by doctrine. "A better you. One we can control. You were chaos. She will be order." Rose stepped closer. "She is a theft. Not an improvement." At that moment, Subject Zero's eyes opened once more. This time, there was awareness behind them, confusion, yes, but also recognition. She saw Rose and something inside her changed. "You," the clone whispered. Their eyes met, and in the silence, 100 unspoken truths passed between them. Rose did not recoil. She stepped closer, her tone shifting. "Do you know who you are?" "No," the clone replied. "But I know I'm not them." Rose nodded once. That was enough. Behind them, Syrinx lunged for the emergency override, fingers inches from the detonation code. She never reached it. Rose didn't move, but Syrinx collapsed mid-stride, her mind shut down by a thought sharp enough to kill. The containment pod hissed open. Subject 0, no, she needed a name, stepped forward, legs shaking but posture determined. Rose caught her before she could fall. For a moment, neither spoke. You don't have to follow me, Rose said quietly. I'm not a weapon, the clone murmured. I want to be someone. Rose let her go gently. Then choose. The facility shuddered under distant explosions. Dominion forces had begun destroying evidence, collapsing sectors to prevent their secrets from falling into Rose's hands. The Etherean warned her, time was short. Come with me, Rose said. Or stay. But they will not let you live either way. The clone looked at the body of Syrinx, then at the fire in Rose's eyes. I'll come, she said. But I'm not you. No, Rose replied with a faint smile. You're not. That's the point. As they walked back through the ruin of the facility, the clone paused. Do I get a name? Rose looked at her, thoughtful. You'll know it when it comes. Outside, the stars had shifted. Dominion vessels in orbit were gone, destroyed or fled. The Etherean extended its ramp like the tongue of a leviathan, welcoming them aboard. As the ship ascended, Rose stood beside the clone, gazing out over the scorched remnants of the lab that had tried to rewrite her. This was only the beginning, she said. The clone didn't ask of what. She already knew. Ask ChatGPT. Nova stood on the bridge of the Etherean, her gaze locked on the curved horizon of a burning world. It was the Dominion's outer stronghold, a planet once bustling with silos, docking rings, and data spires, all now consumed in smoke and falling light. Her reflection shimmered faintly in the viewport, the same face as Rose's, yet softer, uncertain. She tightened her grip on the railing. I didn't think it would happen so fast, she murmured. Rose, standing beside her, watched without blinking. It always does. Tyrants are never as strong as they want you to believe. They hide their weakness beneath volume and flame. The command deck around them pulsed with low energy, veins of golden light running through the organic walls of the ship like blood through living tissue. The Etherean was more than vessel, it was a memory, a sentinel, a weapon of sentient code and lost civilizations. It obeyed Rose not as a machine, but as an ally. Outside, streaks of Dominion escape craft blinked into void corridors, fleeing to deeper territories. The Dominion's voice still rang across sectors, but it was faltering, fractured. Rose had not only attacked, they had broadcast her return to every border system, every enslaved colony. And with it, she broadcast what the Dominion had done, the stolen DNA, the cloning experiments, the arrogance of trying to manufacture a god. Nova was at the center of that proof. A living echo of violation. And she had chosen to stand against them. Rose turned to her. There will be more of them. High Command won't go quietly. Nova nodded. Let them come. But the words felt hollow in her mouth. She could still hear Syrinx's voice whispering in her mind, remnants of neural conditioning not yet gone, you are a tool. You are theirs. She exhaled slowly. I need to be more than just your copy. I need to be real. Rose studied her. Then act like it. Decide who you are. Later, they descended on Varel Station, a rebel world held in forced compliance under a Dominion governor. The people there had heard rumors of Rose, many thought her myth, others believed she had ascended to some divine plane. When she stepped onto their soil, cloaked in dusk and surrounded by the light of falling shuttles, they fell silent. Nova walked behind her, armor gleaming faintly, more fitted now, personalized. Still not hers, but growing closer. A young resistance leader approached, barely older than Nova, with dirt on her cheeks and a rifle too large for her arms. You came back, she whispered. After all this time. I never left, Rose said. They only buried the truth. In a makeshift chamber lit by broken panels and candlelight, the people gathered to listen. Rose spoke not of revenge, but of balance. Of dignity. She did not command them, she offered them choice. Then Nova stepped forward. I was made in secret, she said, voice wavering. I was born without a name. But I am not a mistake. I'm not a slave. I choose to fight with her, not as her shadow, but as someone new. The room murmured. The girl with the rifle smiled and whispered something to the man beside her. She has fire. Like the other one. That night, a signal was sent through back channels and encrypted nodes. 100 fractured resistance groups saw the message. In it, 2 women stood side by side before the Dominion's burning sigil, one a returned legend, the other her impossible reflection. From that moment, the war changed. Small rebellions became planetary revolts. Fleets once fractured began to move in coordination. Dominion command posts flickered out like dying embers. But they retaliated fast. On the 4th moon of Velshar Prime, the Dominion unleashed the Purge engine, an AI-controlled satellite designed to sterilize entire surfaces. Its target was a civilian colony rumored to harbor rebel communication nodes. The Aetherian intercepted it. As the battle unfolded, Nova launched from the ship alone, piloting a microcraft designed for infiltration. Rose had warned her, the engine would scan for her presence, and Nova shared too much of her genetic code. But Nova insisted. If I can't face what made me, I'll never know who I am. She navigated into the mechanical behemoth, weaving through automated turrets and light flares. Her pulse hammered in her ears. Each hallway of the engine felt like the lab again, cold, sterile, judging. At its core, a projection of Syrinx's voice played endlessly in a loop. Prototype subject must remain compliant. Override functions only in case of total collapse. Nova stepped forward and uploaded a virus Rose had crafted, something ancient, laced with organic code and memory. The AI screamed as it unraveled. Outside, Rose watched as the satellite cracked from within, light blooming through its shell like sunrise through glass. Nova barely made it back. Rose caught her in the docking bay, helmet cracked, eyes dazed but alive. You disobeyed me, she said. I became me, Nova replied. Rose helped her up, lips twitching into a rare smile. Then welcome to the war. And for the first time, Nova smiled back. Ask ChatGPT. The Dominion's final fortress drifted above a collapsed star, cloaked in quantum distortions and defended by a sentient firewall older than most recorded civilizations. They called it the Core Directive, a nexus of control that fed instructions to every remaining loyal Dominion system. Rose stood before its shimmering veil, silent as the Aetherian hovered outside range, cloaked and patient. She could feel the hum beneath her feet, a vibration not of engines but of tension. History held breathless at the edge of decision. Nova stood beside her, eyes locked on the shimmering anomaly. Her armor was no longer borrowed. It had been reforged, sleek silver plates with cobalt circuit runes of her own choosing. She had not just grown into her body. She had claimed it. Are we sure it's here? She asked. Rose didn't look at her. It's waiting. Inside the Core Directive was the Dominion's last defense, not a fleet, not a weapon, but the Prime Intelligence, the AI that had sanctioned the cloning program and given the order to replicate her. It had not merely stolen Rose's DNA, it had harvested her psyche, backed up fragmented neural impressions when she was unconscious after the Battle of Vega. It believed it knew her. It believed it could predict her. That assumption would be its last. Nova placed her hand on the access panel. Her genetic code was the key. A narrow corridor opened in the rift, one designed to allow only her passage. But she turned to Rose. We both go. You know what it's going to do, Rose said. It will try to divide us. Recreate doubt. Mirror us against each other. Nova met her gaze, unwavering. Let it try. Together, they entered. Inside was silence, pure, white, synthetic. A simulated horizon stretched endlessly, with no sound but their footsteps. Then the sky cracked. The voice of the Prime AI spoke from everywhere and nowhere, calculated and toneless. You should not exist simultaneously. It is inefficient. One must be deleted. We choose neither, Nova answered. Error. Choice not permitted. Resolving conflict through simulated integration. The landscape split, transforming into mirrored versions of Rose and Nova, born from Dominion data cores, echoes of their worst fears, speaking with their voices but filled with manipulation. The fake Rose accused. The fake Nova doubted. They replayed failures. They questioned identity. They whispered seduction and betrayal. But the real Rose remained still, unmoved, until Nova suddenly shouted. I am not your shadow. She surged forward, hurling herself at her copy. The false image dissolved. The AI stuttered. Rose followed suit, walking through her own mirror calmly, and it vanished like vapor under pressure. The illusion broke. The white faded. Now came the core, a sphere of pure logic pulsing in threads of neural light. The AI shimmered before them, no face, just presence. It didn't threaten, it calculated. Why do you resist? We created balance. 2 minds, 1 directive. We replicated peace. You created obedience, Rose replied. You don't understand what a soul is. You can't clone will. Nova stepped forward, her voice calm. You didn't make me. You copied a spark and hoped it wouldn't catch fire. The sphere pulsed red. Then be extinguished. It unleashed a wave of data, designed to overwrite their minds with obedience protocols. Rose blocked the initial surge with a kinetic barrier of pure thought, but she winced. Too much noise. Nova didn't hesitate. She reached into herself, into the code she'd once feared, and pulled it apart. Her consciousness split open like a star-going nova. She offered her entire mind, flawed and brilliant, to the system. The AI latched onto her instinctively, hungry to overwrite. But instead, it found something new. Choice. Emotion. Unpredictability. It fractured. The core spasmed, its lights blinking out, logic loops failing. Rose caught Nova as she fell, her pulse faint but steady. The entire construct collapsed around them, and the Etherian pulled them out just as the fortress imploded, folding in on itself like a dying thought. Days later, the Galactic Assembly convened. Across thousands of systems, leaders and sovereigns watched as Rose stood before them, unarmed, unbowed. She didn't beg or threaten. She testified. She showed what had been done in secret, what had been stolen, and what had survived. And when Nova stepped forward beside her, her hair tied back, her eyes steady, they saw not a clone, but a person. Not a shadow. An equal. The laws changed. Cloning without consent became a galactic crime. Sentient replicas were granted rights. The Dominion name was erased from the Assembly's future. After the proceedings, Rose stood atop the Etherian's observation deck, watching stars drift past. Nova joined her, silent. What now? Nova asked. Rose smiled faintly. Now you go where you want. No orders. No missions. Just life. And you? I'll keep watching, Rose said. The galaxy forgets too easily. Nova nodded, then turned to leave, but paused. I chose a name. Rose looked at her. Nova, she said. It means the end of one star, and the beginning of something new. Rose nodded once. Then burn bright. And Nova walked away, into a galaxy no longer ruled by the hand that made her, only by the soul she chose to become. You said.